Hi guys, just some reflections on Dad, Mr. Percival, that tall 6'3" King Arthur from the Lake Districts, who I got to know as Dad. So living on this earth for 100 years is mind-blowing for me. I'm 2/3 of the way there. I don't think I'm going to make that century, but he lived it well. So my earliest memories would be of security and love and spacious home and garden and surrounded by bush in that big home in Fort Victoria. And back then, yeah, it wasn't unusual to stand on the back stoop and see waterbuck, reedbuck and so on. That was Dad's dream. That's why he came to Africa for the wildlife and so on. I remember my first walking. He gave me this thing with wheels on the end, but like a vacuum cleaner thing you could push. So that got me to learn to walk. And then he allowed me to be on a little tricycle, screaming around in our big house. There was a circuit corridor, and he wasn't precious about that. So I could go bumbling around as a kid and improve my skills of all things ambitious on a bike. I remember the freedom they allowed us, and I'm saying Mum as well, because they let us go to KG1 on a bike for about 3 kilometers. So we had to get back by lunch, of course, and there was just that complete trust. And yes, Brian and I, we had our bumps and scrapes and so on, but I enjoyed that about them, that we could have that freedom in our growing up. So as we grew up, we enjoyed the privilege, of course, of 4 uncles on very big farms and all those lovely cousins, too many to mention here today. And that was such a privilege. And Dad would drive us up and leave us to enjoy a nice long holiday with them, if he didn't stay himself to enjoy the bush and the farm life. So he was, of course, a crackshot hunter, and he got to do quite a bit of that on all these farms. And he would take me out in the bush, he would teach me a lot of those skills, and it was all with a conservative and a sensible hunting ethnic philosophy. So I thank him for that. He was a fisherman. Oh my goodness. His life seemed to grow around fishing more and more. And holidays were planned and plotted around just that. So all around South Africa, caravanning, whether it be even Walvis Bay, Swakop in Namibia, we would have these incredible fishing experiences, and of course coastal life for Mum, and swimming and beach and so on. And I just remember the Drakensberg. He was very willing to scamper right to the top with us boys. We got caught in a terrible storm. We were lucky to make it back alive, but he was that sort of outgoing, adventurous person. He encouraged our faith. He was always strong in letting us pursue our interests in attending youth camps. So we attended endless youth camps, and he would sponsor that, and we would go with his blessing. He was a good singer in the choir back in his time at the NG Kerk. Lovely dominees, great influences in his life and ours, of course. And there came a time when Mum was a little bit concerned that he probably wasn't getting as much as he should from the teachings, although his Afrikaans, his understanding of Afrikaans wasn't bad at all. So we made a skip to the Baptist church, a little Baptist church, where Reverend Wood, who later became the chaplain for the Air Force in the Rhodesian conflict, Bush War, he too had a wonderful influence on Dad. And John Griggs, an American missionary, very good tennis player like Dad, and all that input into his Christian walk just grew and grew. Those guys moved on, and so did we, and Dad, to the Christ Church, where Pastor Ben Pennington, it just got better. He was a great academic, wonderful preacher, wonderful friend, and I'm just indebted to him for the way he influenced our family in our walk as Christians, and for Dad. So that was great. So Dad carried the typical English gentleman demeanor, somewhat reserved, ever formal, loved his newspaper and reading, come home and read his paper. So not inclined to do the rough and tumble with the boys, mud fights or chase us up trees, that sort of thing. I think that was left for Mum. Mum was good at that. She could beat us in all of the sort of physical contests and fun stuff. He couldn't swim. Now that's mind-blowing for a fisherman. So all those years of boating on Carl Dam and on the Zambezi with storms and 3-meter waves and stuff, let me tell you, I had 1,000 heart attacks wondering how this tall guy was going to cope with a useless life jacket thing if he ever went overboard. But he made it. And of course he caught lots of fish. He was a real skilled, if not a hunter, a fisherman. He never learned to speak Afrikaans. I think he just couldn't get the oh my gosh, he couldn't get that pirate, the gerry. That just put him off, and he battled. But at least his mum, my granny, could say "vaslappy," so that was quite a thing. Anyway, Dad understood Afrikaans very well, but it just beat me that he never learned his good wife's mother tongue, or even the local native Chishona. So at one point, all the boys were in military uniform in the Rhodesian Bush War, and he often spoke about his call up to guard the Sawi Bridge. There's some amazing stories, and of course, the allure of the bush. What did he do? He's supposed to be kind of confined to camp. He would go off bushwalking on his own with his FN. A little bit silly, but he just loved bush, and he was looking for animals and that sort of thing. I hate to think what would have happened if he bumped into a bunch of the no-gooders. But you know what? His closest call was at home. He had just gone across the road to play bridge with Jeff Horsfall, headmaster of the primary school. And at midnight, they packed it up. Dad walked back home just across the road. And it wasn't half an hour later, the house was rocketed, leveled, burnt to the floor. Our front windows were all blown in. I wasn't there. And Don was very small. He ran to Mum and said, "Oh, big tree's fallen on the roof of the house," that sort of thing. But that was a miracle, because they could have turned their rockets and grenades and faced our big home, which would have been very difficult to miss. So that was a close call for him. We all had our close calls, particularly Brian. Brian's a walking miracle. Don't know how he walked away from that bush walk in one piece. I don't want to be too long, but I really want to say Dad showed his true qualities when Mum sadly degraded with the motor neuron disease, and he was there for her right to the end. All the doctoring, all the nursing, extremely difficult time. And he just stuck it in, and he loved her right to the very end when she passed in early 2003. So, Dad, your example will never be forgotten. Well, it wasn't long because of yet another stolen election, 2002, hyperinflation, and it was time for me and my lovely little family to leave for the UK. We then subsequently moved to Perth, as you know, and we're in Australia. But Dad too, as pensioners, they just weren't coping back in Zim. And I think it was 2009, he too had to return to his homeland in the UK, where they cared for him absolutely brilliantly. They've done such a good job of taking care of him there. So we had the privilege, of course, of coming out recently in December for his 100th birthday. That was on the 21st of December. He made it. He scored his century. He remembered us, and we had a great time. And within 5 days, on Boxing Day, he passed to go join his lovely Martha in the heavenlies. So Dad, you've been a real champ, and we just remember you for the wonderful man that you've been, not only as a teacher, as a dad, but also establishing the Old Mutual back in the day. Brilliant job. So many talents. In whatever you did it well, especially for family. And as your firstborn, ever grateful, never going to forget you. Bless you, Dad. See you one day. Bye.